that's something I worry about a little bit.
And
with
then
you
the
guys.
Commanders win the game, and then everyone is asking everyone, "Isn't this such a great story?" Jaden Daniels, what he's doing this year, and I go, for the first time, I'm going to say no.
No.
I'm going to actually say that's not a great
Right.
story anymore. It's turned bad.
Oh, yeah, baby. What's up? It's Chris Simms. It's Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Ahmed Fareed is here. Just because the Lions lost doesn't mean we don't bring the energy on Sunday night. We're sad for our friend Ahmed Fareed, but we still love football. It was a great weekend. Ahmed, I'm sorry I'm not with you tonight. I literally just got out of the car of the blizzard of the Northeast here, but I'm here nonetheless. How you doing, man? You still alive? You still okay?
I will not be bringing the energy. You have overpromised, and I will underdeliver. No, I'm good. You know what? I feel like, and we'll get into it when we talk about the Lions later on. I'm glad we're not starting with it because it would put me in a bad mood. But I feel like there was definitely some emotions at the end of it when it was like, wow, it's really all over. But like last year, I feel like was even more devastating. So maybe I'm getting more used to the playoff losses now. But last year I felt more devastated. And like I think like Washington's such a fun team that I'm able to like move on. At least that's what I'm telling myself at this point.
Yeah,
Chris.
it sounds like a lot of BS. It certainly does. But why we're in the BS segment, I would like to say this is Chris Simms Unbuttoned. We are presented by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement as always. And I mean, I know, man, it was an awesome year. It's always devastating when your team is that good and they don't get where they're supposed to get, or at least in your mind.
Yeah.
It was crushing. I was shocked too last night watching the game, and I know we'll break it down certainly. I'm sure the whole Fareed family was kind of disgusted and hurt last night. It was probably a somber mood.
Yeah, no, my son was 10-year-old son watched the whole game with me, and he goes today to me. He goes, you think they knew it was the playoffs? He goes, do you think that they knew that? And I was like, honestly, after watching it, I don't know. So he was bummed. I was bummed, but it was one of those where it's like there's so many injuries too this year where it wasn't the same team by the end of the season. I mean, you can make the argument that their three best defenders were hurt, and then some depth guys were hurt, and so at a certain point, and you get to these good teams, it's impossible. It's impossible.
That's right. Hey, you play in this kind of football. It's NFL, grown men, coaches who got a whole week to game plan, do stuff like that, right? Guys can rise up to the challenge, win and go home. If you don't play your best, right? I don't care how much better you are than another team. And these kind of moments, you make mistakes that we saw a lot of teams this weekend make mistakes. In fact, I think we kind of saw some teams maybe lose games instead of other teams maybe winning them to a degree. But that's how crucial it is this time of the year. That's how close it is. Like you said, it's playoff football. These are your 8 best teams in the league. They're here for a reason. They usually capitalize on mistakes. And on any given day, you could go home, and we saw that. We got, really 4 pretty damn good games. That can't be denied. They might have not been all nail biters to the very end, but all were competitive, hard hitting, and delivered what you would expect out of playoff football action.
Totally. And so I'm kind of curious. We're going to talk about the Bills and Ravens first. I'm kind of curious if that's one of the games you're alluding to that one of the teams lost and instead of the Bills winning, even though they played really well. We're going to talk about your escapades in Philly for sure. But let's save that for when we talk about that game here in a little bit. You okay with that? Because I purposely did not ask you anything while we were sitting here on Zoom while Pete's back in the studio putting everything together, because I was like, save it for the pod. Save it for the pod. So I want to hear everything about Philly.
Save it for the pod. I got a few stories for you for sure. Don't you worry. Some are good, some are bad. That's what you would expect in Philly. It's the city of brotherly love.
I cannot wait to hear that. All right, but let's start with the last game. It was the Bills. This one just got done. You were watching it in the cars. You were getting driven back in a snowstorm from Philadelphia back to your home in Connecticut here. Bills hang on for the 2-point win, 27-25. You all watched this one. It was maybe the most anticipated game. And if this was the Super Bowl, you're like, that's the Super Bowl, I would have said, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me, because I think you could make an argument these were the 2 best teams in football this year. So let me just start right there with you, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you think the Ravens lost this game more than the Bills won it?
I do. I think first off, your first comment's right. I mean, these are 2 teams that are capable of winning the Super Bowl. It stinks that they have to play each other in the divisional round and one's got to go home. But in the AFC, as we know, there's more than 2 teams that are capable of going to the Super Bowl, with Kansas City being in the mix. I do feel like it's that way a little bit, though. Right. This one of the things I think Buffalo has gotten very good at here this year is the fact that they've kind of taken on that old Patriots mantra of, hey, you don't have to go out and win every game, but let's start with don't lose the game. Don't make the mistakes. And we also talked about, again, Buffalo and their team is different this year, right? We raised all the concerns about the defensive side of the ball. They're smaller. Are they going to be big enough? Are they going to be physical enough? But we did say, of course, throughout the year, their offense is a different animal, right? We knew that. And the fact that there was a more supporting cast around Josh Allen, I think we saw that again today, that he doesn't have to do it all by himself all the time. But yes, with all that said, do I feel like do I look on the field and still go, oh, yeah, I feel like Baltimore's still the better team? Okay, yeah, I do. But between the coaching, the game planning, Sean McDermott, the way they handle certain situational football, and the fact that they played clean, and yeah, Baltimore made some huge mistakes. Let's just start there. You're right. It's huge. Yeah. The interception to start the football game, right? Now, lucky the Baltimore defense made a stand there, and Buffalo didn't go down to get any points, but he throws the little flag route to Rashad Bateman. He throws it high like he's going to go up on more of a vertical angle. Rashad Bateman breaks it outside a little bit flatter. I feel like it was Lamar's fault there, but Tony Romo did a great job of kind of showing you he was under a little pressure and he had to throw it a hair quicker than he wanted to. And that made him, put the ball in the spot he didn't want to. The biggest one, though, is the fumble by Lamar when they were driving a few drives later. You're down there, they're getting close. You feel like they're starting to get a little rhythm. They're certainly in field goal range. Bad snap. John Gruden always used to say, don't make a bad play worse. That was his thing to me all the time, right? Something bad happen. Don't try to save it and make a miracle happen. Sometimes throwing the ball, just getting down on the ground, covering it up, whatever is the best thing you could do. He loses the ball there. And, of course, that was another big moment in the football game, which was big point swing as far as what Baltimore could have had and didn't get and what Buffalo did.
So this is just to underline how unusual this was for Baltimore. This is just the second game this season where they had multiple giveaways. They had 3 in this game. Lamar Jackson, his quote after the game, I threw a BS interception, fumble, trying to make something happen. It's a team effort out there. Turnovers can't have that S. Yeah, he said. That's why we lost the game.
Right.
We were moving the ball wonderfully. It's holding on to the effing ball. Sorry for my language, but this S is annoying. I'm tired of this S. So he obviously putting the blame on himself. And we saw also in the earlier game too in Philadelphia, Stafford had a handoff where the ball just kind of slipped out of his hands. And I wonder, and you hate the gloves. You're not a 2-glove kind of guy, but I did notice Josh Allen wearing on his offhand a glove. And I was kind of wondering, I was like, yeah, maybe that's the key to playing in some of these slicker, cold temperature, snowing games is just at least have the one glove there to make sure the ball doesn't slip out.
I don't think you're wrong there. You saw Brady do that forever, I think, for that reason, right? Just when people are around you in the pocket and you got 2 hands on it, to have the one glove that has that stickiness and that tackiness to it to just give you a little bit more of a grip, I do think has some value. I never loved doing it, but I have no problem with that. I don't. It's the throwing hand glove that I certainly gives me the issue. Listen, I love him, Lamar Jackson. You know that. He's unbelievable. I think he turned the corner in the last year and a half as a leader, and even how he handles press conferences, and he puts it on himself. There's no nonsense. There's no excuses, right? The thing with them is this loss they've been playing really good football. This loss looked like the losses they had earlier in the year where, again, they lost games early in the year or to Cleveland or Philadelphia where you went, hey, there was chances in those games to make it happen, and they just didn't quite make it happen in the most important moments of the football game, and that led to a loss. And we kind of saw that again here today in this football game. The sloppy game by them altogether. We talk about the 2 turnovers by Lamar. You talk about Derrick Henry dropping a pass off the left sideline that maybe could have, been a huge explosive play just to get even momentum even more on your side. And I believe that was still a series where they went down and scored, and if I remember correctly. But still, things that we're not accustomed to seeing them do. Then, of course, Mark Andrews fumble in the middle of the field, and then the drop pass for the 2-point conversion to tie the football game. We're going to get to Buffalo and talk all that, but those were certainly opportunities where Baltimore could have done better. And I got to say, too, and you saw this on our text messages as I was driving here, like Mark Andrews fumble, his fault. Mark Andrews should have caught the 2-point conversion. But I promise you, the offensive coaches for Baltimore are also going to give Lamar Jackson a negative grade for that throw on the 2-point conversion. He double clutched it. He kind of babied it, right? That play is supposed to be on the run, boom, and just throw it, and the guy hits it, and he turns up, right? He kind of was like, whoa, he's really open, right? He takes his hand off the ball, and then he kind of throws it like a dart. And Mark Andrews should have caught it. Don't get me wrong, and he's going to be the first to say that. But Lamar Jackson's also going to watch the film and go to Mark Andrews tomorrow and go, damn, man, I could have gave you a better ball and made that easier on you. That's for sure.
Totally, because you can tell Mark Andrews by the time he gets it, he's worried about his feet. You know, he's trying to keep both of his feet down.
Exactly right. There was a lot there.
He stops running because he's like, oh, I'm close to the sideline here. I've got to make sure I just stop and just secure it. And then it all went haywire. Yeah, Buffalo fans are steaming right now. So, like, because it's like, of course,
Baltimore fans,
did things to win this game. Buffalo fans watching this right now. They're like, come on, man, we won this game. We won this game. Give us some credit here. Yeah. So, like, what were you most impressed about with the Bills?
I think the first thing is one thing that I like to show where we are leading people in the right direction is we said Buffalo would be able to run the ball on Baltimore a little bit, right? They'll be able to run it and move it. It wasn't easy, but they did have enough success there to where you felt like, okay, he doesn't have to drop back and throw the ball 45 times and win the game. There was that. I think the biggest thing, though, by far is the defensive game plan. The defensive game plan by McDermott, we talked about they were going to have to be different than they were in the first matchup, right? They were going to have to change their style of play totally. Yeah. And they did that for this one. We saw a lot more people at the line of scrimmage, a lot more blitzing, right? All of that. That led to a few big plays by Lamar and the Baltimore offense. We saw that too. But I think as a whole, Baltimore all day was a little bit like, wait, are they going to bring the blitz? Are they not going to bring the blitz? Okay, if I do get out of the pocket, can I make something happen? Or is there going to be a spy there or somebody there? They were I felt like never able to really get in a rhythm, especially early on in the football game. We saw the third quarter, it started to click, it started to work there, and that was big for them. But that, and here's another huge moment of the game, Ahmed. You know I love my moments of the game.
Yeah.
14-7, he throws the big throw, Lamar Jackson, down the middle to Rashad Bateman to the 3-yard line, if you remember. And you're going, damn, well, they're Baltimore. Shit, Baltimore's going to punch it in and score now. They're on the 3-yard line. They got that O-line. They got Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. They're going to score. Buffalo holding them to a field goal right there in that moment. That was a big moment, too. Again, I just think it just kind of showed the Ravens like, hey, you're not just going to waltz down the field on us all day and overpower us. Ed Oliver was phenomenal. Matt Milano was phenomenal. And the game plan was uncomfortable, I'm sure, for Sean McDermott. But I think it's what he needed to do, and it's a big reason why they won the game.
Yeah, I think it was Milano that tipped that the first 2-point conversion away.
It was.
And stopped him there. And so that
was another big moment in the football game.
Yep,
they stopped him on two 2-point conversions and all the other moments we've talked about. Those are things we've been worried about with the Buffalo defense all year long.
Josh Allen now has 7 rushing touchdowns in his postseason career. That is just one behind Steve Young for the most in NFL playoff history. Steve Young had 22 playoff games. Josh Allen had 12. How would you make the comparison? Obviously, the turnovers for Lamar Jackson. But how would you make the comparison outside of the turnovers? I mean, Buffalo did not make Baltimore punt in this one. How would you compare and contrast how Allen and Lamar stepped up in this big game setting?
I thought they both played well. I looked at it and went, man, there was certainly 1 or 2 throws they could have both wanted back, right, that they missed. We know about the mistakes in Lamar and that, but damn, I mean, how many highlight unbelievable plays did Lamar make tonight, right? I think the big thing is, and we know how awesome Lamar is and all that. The big thing is I think Josh Allen's ability, maturity, learning, that he doesn't have to be Mr. Crazy Guy. I got to do something crazy all the time to make us win a football game. He's shown great, just patience here lately, especially even last week against Denver. Remember, I said that they came out playing a defense that was like, we're not going to give him the big play. And he took the check down and he ran, and they ran a few quarterback designs. So to me, that's big with Josh Allen, because Josh Allen has been, as we know, someone that's maybe on the other side of that coin a lot through his career, where you're like, you don't need to be that aggressive. I know those plays were awesome, but what? That one was crazy. Don't do that. And we just don't see that very much anymore. And in years past, I feel like in these games where he feels like, wait, we've got a drive or two and I haven't done anything, right? Now it's time for me to make some crazy throw or run. And it was just like, he was like, I'm just going to keep playing. I'm going to trust my football team. And I thought that was really big by Josh Allen. Lamar had the bigger highlight plays. Josh just played more steady and, of course, took care of the football. And they won situational football. I think that was the big thing for them tonight.
Obviously, the snow and all the conditions in Buffalo and the cold weather, you knew the running game was going to be important for Buffalo. The question coming in was, would they be able to do it? And they did do it. They committed to it. 36 rushes for Buffalo, 147 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Scarecrow Boat says to you, how about the Bills flipping the script, running the ball all over Baltimore?
I said it on the pregame show today in Philadelphia. I thought this would be a thing. I thought that the Buffalo O-line, we've talked about, this is different than what they've had. James Cook is a really good running back. He's elite. He's one of the better running backs in football. I know he's not, Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs or Derrick Henry yet, but he's part of the next group of guys down from that. And then all the receivers they got around it, and they're physical in their run game. But yeah, they brought the fight to Baltimore's defense a little bit. And I think that was big. And just one, hey, like I said earlier, we're here for a physical matchup. You're not just going to get us into some highlight, high flying throwing football game. It chewed up some clock and kept that high powered Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens offense off the field. Right. And I just think as it goes on, it's just going to continue to serve them well and open up play action passes and whatever else. It wasn't easy. On a night like tonight, where it's cold, it's windy, the ball is slick. We talked about for the last few weeks in these cold games, the game slows down. You don't see as many explosive plays. And I think that's where I'm proud of Buffalo. Back to Buffalo, who might be pissed at us because we started the show talking about Baltimore.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But we saved the cream of the crop for last year. Buffalo, and this is where my admiration for Sean McDermott and his ability to talk and communicate to his team and get them to play tough. I mean, think about it. We kind of talked about this a little, where when you're on the defense and all week you're hearing is, hey, you're going to get pushed around. They're big. They're the most physical run team in football. And at the other ear, you're getting your defensive line coach going, hey, we can't win the game unless you control the line of scrimmage a little bit. Ed Oliver, you're going to have your best game of the year or we can't win. And he did have maybe his best game of the year. Gregory Rousseau popped up a lot in a lot of moments. Epinesa was big. We saw Von Miller here and there. And then, of course, Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, what they did in the middle of the defense was super special, too.
Do you criticize Baltimore for only running Derrick Henry 16 times? I mean, they still ran for 176 yards. Justice Hill ripped off a couple big ones. Do you think they could have? I mean, that was the big narrative last year with them, right? It was like what happened to the run game. So, I mean, they still ran it 30 times, including Lamar's scrambles in there for 175 yards.
Hey, you can argue you'd like to see Derrick Henry get a few more touches, but that's about as far as it's going to go for me, right? Yeah. I had no problem. This wasn't a game like last year in the Chiefs game like you're talking about, where you're like, wait, it's 1st and 10. They're up by a field goal. We're going to just throw it 3 times? Like what? You felt like they came out with a purpose to run the football. The game flow and some of the things that happen and then get behind the chains every now and then maybe didn't allow them to lean on the running game quite to the capacity they wanted. But I'm certainly not going to question the game plan, what they did. They still made a lot of big plays and did a lot of good things. And let's not forget they were missing really maybe one of the most explosive receivers in football, and Zay Flowers. That certainly hurt them too.
And they really just stopped themselves. Again, no punts for them. Last thing for Baltimore here is now Pete's throwing this in here. So from 2018 to 2024, the Ravens have joined the Colts from the late 90s to 2005 as the only team in NFL history with 80 or more wins in a 7-season span without reaching the Super Bowl. And that, like, for me, that's like nightmare scenario. And that's coming from a Lions fan who lived through 0-16 and like never making the playoffs. I feel like now for Baltimore, it's almost like the regular season is rendered like, who cares, right? It's all about now what you do in these couple of games. Will the ball bounce your way? So
that's
like,
right.
Kind of like you got probably the MVP in Lamar Jackson. You got a great coach in John Harbaugh. They didn't have Zay Flowers in this one, but like the same discussion with Mike Tomlin, maybe a little different though. It's just like, what's going to change? What will it take for Baltimore to get over the hump? And maybe it's just one of those things where it's just like you run into good football teams, run into good quarterbacks, and it's been tails every time for them up to this point.
I think so. I think they really have a lot of self-blame to go around in these big moments, though, whether it was some of the game planning last year. And let's not forget we just talked about, the lack of the run game. Let's not forget Zay Flowers fumbled on the 1 foot line going into score last year, right? They're so close. They're playing in a conference that is, of course, great. And within these 7 years, they had to go from the handoff of like, oh, the Patriots to the Chiefs. Oh, great. Thanks. Thanks for that, league. We get to deal with these two teams all the time. They're going to have to find, I think the big thing is play cleaner football in these moments, play a little bit better in the situational football, right? That's where Buffalo is becoming special. And we saw them do this to Kansas City. And this is where Josh Allen's, to me, his statistics are a little like they don't get the credit they deserve, because a lot of the times as we watch through the years and the big gotta have it moments, they make it happen. And we saw that again today. And for whatever reason, Baltimore has just not been able to do that against the top quality competition in football, right? The year started off with them having a toe out of bounds on a 2-point conversion to win the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It ends the 2-point conversion, and we can't catch the ball in the flat, something they probably did 400 times in practice and the games this year. And they messed up the execution of that. Harbaugh's going to hear about it. They're going to hear about them not being able to win the big game and all that. But they'll be back. Lamar's on a mission, and he's one of the greatest quarterbacks the league has ever seen.
Spoiled in the AFC with Lamar, with Josh Allen, with Joe Burrow.
It's annoying.
And Patrick Mahomes. You ready? You ready to move on?
Yeah.
For the other game?
I think I am. I'm ready. Okay, let's do it.
You'll have plenty of time to discuss whatever else we missed with Mike, and then on Wednesday. It's time for Home Team Help presented by Lowe's. So for this one, we'll take a look at the 1 seed moving on against the 4 seed in the Houston Texans. The home crowd helping the Chiefs again. You saw Taylor there. And Caitlin Clark, right? Was that the first time they'd sat together? I was like, wow, I didn't even know they were friends. They're just like two famous people. Just like, hey, let's sit together. What's up with that?
I mean, what Taylor Swift says, come sit with me next to the game, at a game, you say yes. I mean, if she asked me, I'd go. I know that.
Yeah, that's true.
That was kind of cool.
She goes, you're a Chiefs fan now, too. You're like, okay, fine. I'll do whatever you say.
If you say so. I'll say it. Yeah, she put out some of that Tay voodoo on the Houston Texans team, I'm sure, with Taylor Swift, as my daughter and some of my female friends have told me about Tay voodoo. So I'm trying to be cool and hip there with that comment.
So wait, what is that?
They call like Tay voodoo is like, oh, we're going to kick the game-winning field goal with the Denver Broncos, and the ball got blocked somehow. And it's like Tay voodoo, like Taylor Swift voodoo, and her fans put it on the other team. So it's kind of a thing. You can look it up. Yeah.
So it's not Taylor. It's not Taylor herself doing something weird up there. Okay, I like that. I would not have known that. So whatever they did, the voodoo. I mean, the offensive line for Houston has been pretty bad most of the season, but they continue to be bad. At 8 sacks for Kansas City, 3 by George Karlaftis. I mean, Patrick Mahomes. How would you sum up the Chiefs? It seems like every game that's like close, but you are never really that concerned. I mean, they've earned the right to just not be doubted in any one of these games.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing for me is, and I wanted to say this today in the pregame show when I did it, right? They might not control the game. They might have a period of the game where you go, wait. And we said this, I think, on text yesterday. The Texans are outplaying the Chiefs. But when it came into the moments, the Chiefs always win the moments. And that's the big thing about the Kansas City Chiefs. So they might not control the game, but they win the moments. And that's what they do. And we saw that again yesterday. I'm so sick of hearing this shit about, the fix is in for the Chiefs and all this crap on social media all the time. I mean, the Texans started the game off with letting them return a kick 65 yards. The Texans missed 2 field goals. The Texans did a number of dumb shit during the night. The Texans let up 8 sacks, like you just said. That's not a fix. That's called one team is whooping their ass in certain areas in certain moments of the game. And I don't mean they really whooped them, because we know this game was very close. But the Chiefs continue to manage clock, manage situations the right way, make the big plays in the big moments. And they have become a little bit like we just talked about with Buffalo and what I said with New England, a little bit of this defensive team that goes, let's just stay close and watch them mess the game up somehow, some way. And we'll take advantage. When they make that mistake, we'll come in and save the day or do something there. And that's where I'm amazed by them. They just want to stay in the football game and stay close, and they know they're going to make the big plays in the big moments.
How would you compare them to where they were last year at this point? Because I think at the end of the regular season, I mean, the talking point was, they're going on the road for the first time. How are they going to handle that? They can't just put their foot on the gas and turn it on in the playoffs, and they did all that. Like, do you think, like, offensively and defensively, where are they at compared to that team last year?
I think that they're not as good on the defensive side of the ball. I actually think their offense is a little bit better. I do. And I think even the other day it was close, right? He had one big pass down the sideline to Hollywood Brown they almost hit. There was a few drops here and there. Right? We're seeing Xavier Worthy all the time. I think they have a chance to be a little more explosive if they do get to the Super Bowl, or we'll see this week against the Buffalo Bills than maybe what we saw last year. But I don't know if I think their defense is that dominant, right? Like last year when they beat the Baltimore Ravens, I certainly was like, whoa, surprised, but wasn't surprised they gave that Ravens offense issues. And the same with the 49ers in the Super Bowl. They had everything going. And as I said to you many times during the year, with L'Jarius Sneed, who was almost the NFL defense MVP in the secondary last year, that allowed them to do a few more things because he could play lockdown, McDuffie would play lockdown, and they could do whatever they want with the other 9 guys out there on the football field.
Yeah, it did. Well, the one thing that's different, it's like Isaiah Pacheco last year in the postseason was like a one-man wrecking crew, just running over dudes.
Very
he
true.
hasn't been able to do that. He's since coming back from being injured, he hasn't looked like the same guy. This comes from new Twitter handle. Says, can Kansas City get the run game going, or should they just give up on it and put it all on Mahomes?
Yeah, I think they got to run just this, like, for the sake of running, the sake of not letting a team tee off on them. But I don't think it's going to be one like where it was like last year. I think your point was spot on. That's where they're different, and I should have said that. Pacheco is not as explosive. You could see he does not have the bounce in his step that he usually does. There's not the speed, the power when he runs through the line of scrimmage and people bouncing off him. You don't quite see it that way. No, I think they're going to have to be a little bit more of, hey, we run because we want to keep you honest, but it's going to be more play action pass, throw the ball down the field, and maybe some quick screens out in the edge to Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, speed sweeps, things like that. Maybe more trickeration type run or trickeration type plays to substitute for the run game. I think that's what you're going to see here more of in the next 2 weeks. Or if they make it 2 weeks,
Yeah, for sure. We did see Travis Kelce have one of his better games, 7 catches, 117 yards, a touchdown. I think we have the targeted route chart for Travis Kelce. I'd love to look at his game logs too, because I don't know how many games he had over 100 yards this year, but what'd you make of that connection against Houston?
Well, I think what really happened here, I mean, again, it's Travis Kelce, it's playoffs, but I think what it is Houston looked at it and went, wait, I mean, Travis Kelce hasn't been that great this year. What are we going to do? We're going to double team him? We're going to do this? No. So they just played defense. They did what they usually do. They're one of the top defenses in football. They played man when it was man, and they didn't show him, any respect there. They just played man to man. And when it was zone, they just played the zone they wanted to do. But as we talked about on Wednesday Pick 6 podcast, Kansas City knows how to play that defensive scheme, right? They got to play the Seattle scheme twice in the Super Bowl. So their preparation in those moments to know how to attack it, its rules, and take advantage of it, I think is better than most in football. And I think that's what they do. You play zones, they know how to widen zones out and then have a guy sit in there. They can stretch that out. And I think we saw that a few times yesterday with Travis Kelce, where I know most of the public's going, wait, why is he so wide open in the middle of the field? Like, how could that happen? And it's more because of Matt Nagy, Andy Reid, the way they design plays and then spread that zone to where he could sit in it, and it's playoffs and he's rested and he's rising to the occasion. And that tends to happen with guys like him in these big football games.
Yeah, Travis Kelce had one other game where he had exactly 100 yards this season. That was the overtime win against the Bucs early in November. Playoffs now, he's averaging 94 yards a game. He's got 4 touchdowns in 5 games. That's the last 2 seasons now. So when the weather gets cold and Taylor's doing her voodoo and Caitlin Clark shows up, so does Travis Kelce.
Yes, he does.
Maybe a little more on the defense now for the Chiefs. Obviously, Houston had a problem all season long. Next Gen Stat says here, Stroud pressured on 51% of his dropbacks, 12 pressures on 17 blitzes, including 8 from unblocked pass rushers in this one. So it's like, for Houston, this is a team that probably played one of their better games the week before to get to this one.
Right.
Like, is it as simple as that? Like, where they have to start with this team is fixing that offensive line next year?
I don't think there's any doubt about that, right? You were watching the game yesterday. There's not a lot of weak spots on their team. They got talent everywhere, and especially if they're healthy at receiver. So you look at it and go, that's got, and it's got to be more than just we improve the offensive line physically. Again, another thing we've talked about a lot during the year is that they have to empower C.J. Stroud into the protection plan. He's got to be a part of it. Some of these plays where he gets surprised, right? Because he's not a part of it. And you don't see Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes get surprised to that extent nearly as much as you see C.J. Stroud, where he's going, well, my center told me I was good. Oh, wait, here's a corner off the edge. Oh, no, I'm not. I got to make something happen. So, yes, teams figured out how to expose their pass protection plan like we alluded to so much during the year. And as the game went on, it felt like Spags had a better and better feel for it. Right. And then also, I think on top of that, some of those sacks were coverage sacks. I didn't like on some of them. I didn't sit there and go, oh, my gosh, the dam just broke. He has no time. No, as we know, with only Nico Collins being the only game breaker out there as far as a receiver, I think, Kansas City probably locked them up. The replays I saw, there was certainly some where I went, man, nobody was there. So, of course, he's holding the ball a second, and then Chris Jones or Kalafdis or somebody's going to get there. But, hey, this was a game that Houston had it there to be stolen. They did. They had chances to win the game. Like we talked about, the Chiefs won moments. I think D'Amico Ryans made some bad decisions in the game at certain moments. Listen, I did not agree with D'Amico Ryans trying the 50-something yard field goal. I thought that was wrong, and he kind of just helped the Chiefs go down and get a few extra points there. I wasn't in agreement with that. I wasn't in agreement with D'Amico Ryans going forward on 4th and 10 at the 40-yard line. I know it was kind of no man's land, but I still, at that point, the way their defense is playing, I would have tried to punt them down and just play the field goal possession game at that moment too. I thought they made some critical mistakes, had some opportunities, didn't make that happen. But again, as we said, the Chiefs never miss opportunities, and that's what makes them so special.
Houston is the first team in the Super Bowl playoff era to outgain their opponent by at least 100 yards, have no turnovers, and lose. Teams were 46-0 prior to that. How about that?
Yeah.
Right? That's how unusual this one was.
It is. But again, I think when you get back into we missed 2 field goals, we missed an extra point, we let up a big kick return, right?
Yeah.
We got turnover on downs. There's a number of things you can point to and go, yeah, you didn't turn the ball over, but you messed up some big spots in the football game.
Yeah. And they had to go against the referees. And there's no one that likes bashing referees as much as you. But although Houston actually did quite enjoy it at the end of this one. So here's the quotes, and I'll let you. Yeah. There's a couple roughing the passer, the 3rd and 8, and then the Henry Toto, the 4-yard run. So D'Amico Ryans said this, in case you haven't said it. We knew going into this game, man, it was us versus everybody. When I say everybody, I mean everybody. The naysayers, the doubt, everybody we had to go against again today. And then I believe, who else was it? Was it Will Anderson that made it a little more clear that he was talking about the referees? Yeah. So what'd you make of both of those calls on Mahomes?
Listen, I hate that shit, all of it. I wish they wouldn't call penalties on any of that crap anymore. I'm so sick of it. You know that. All right? But when I saw the replay, I went, well, yeah, they're going to call that. They called that all year. Like, I hate it. But he kind of went up and he just got him in the face. And, yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes. So I wasn't shocked by it. That's consistent. Now, the other one, there was intent to crush him and to lower the crown of the helmet. Now, they missed him. They didn't hit him.
Yeah.
He got underneath it, right? So I don't think you should call that if he didn't make contact. But did the guy lower literally the crown of his head and try to launch and just shoot right at Mahomes' head? Yes, he did, which was stupid that he tried to do that. Because, again, with Mahomes as being the eighth wonder of the world and the number one artifact of the NFL, yeah, they're not gonna let that go down. They don't want Lamar, Josh Allen, Lamar, and those guys getting knocked out of the playoff football because a team's like, oh, when he's down, we're going to give him some cheap shots and try to knock him out that way. So they're going to be protected. Those were tough calls. I feel bad for Houston. And, yeah, I wish they weren't called. But the first one especially, I think, was consistent with what we saw all year long.
Yeah, they're trying to make him not an artifact. They don't want him to be an artifact, like just lying dead on the field.
That's exactly right. Well,
can
I say one more thing, too, that I think is a little bit interesting in the game, right? I do think Mahomes was off early on, right? And this is another little underlying fact of the football game. I mean, we talked about it. There was the early part of the game, we were texting, right? Pete was on the text. Matt Casey, we were like, man, the Texans are more physical. The Texans are kind of outplaying and pushing around the Kansas City Chiefs. Certainly. The Texans in the short passing game, which I feel like we were the first to be like, hey, Texans, stop this down the field passing crap. Throw it short. Let your guy who's super accurate just get it to these guys so we don't have to worry about pass protection. But here's another thing that's kind of sneaky, can knock you off kilter as an offense. When you start the game in the red zone, that sucks. I'm just telling you. I guarantee when Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs got the ball inside the 20 after the long kick return to start the game, you're happy, but that's also like, damn, this is a tough place to start and get in rhythm, right? As a quarterback, you'd like to go, hey, I'd like to get a few throws. Hey, we ran this play. We got to dangle a few plays in front of the defense. So now when we get in the red zone, we go, oh, here's that play we ran before. Oh, psych, it's not that way. Boom, touchdown. So it's very hard to start that way. And I do feel like because they started down there, I felt like had Kelsey on the first throw of the game, but he was like, it's the first play of the game. I don't know if I want to stick it in that tight red zone window. He threw the ball in the flat to Pacheco. And then if you remember, he missed a little wheel in the back of the corner on the first drive. And it was a second throw of the game and he's being safe because he's going, hey, it's the start of the game. We got a field goal. Let me just make sure I don't make a bad throw and interception. But within that, it can also kind of ruin your rhythm. It ruins your first 15 momentum that you might have had in the game. And I don't think it's something that maybe fans think about sometimes.
I would have never thought of that because I would have been like, oh, we got this instant momentum, but I
think a lot of people think that. Right.
It's like if you walk in and your wife's got stuff like on the counter, the kitchen counter, all making stuff on the oven. I'm trying to just figure out an analogy what would apply in my life. And she goes, jump in, go right ahead. Yeah. I'm like, well, what's the steak? How much longer does it need to be on here?
What's the meal we're making? I don't know what we're doing. That's kind of what it is. It is.
Yeah.
And, just to be
you
thrown
started
in
boiling
there.
the potatoes? Yeah. I don't even know.
Right.
Is there salt in there? This is too much.
The last 3 nights we prepared for these 4 plays to be the first 4 plays of the game. And now, no, we're in a different spot and nobody expected it. And now we're just going to go into our red zone offense. And there is something about that. And it's not that easy. And like I said, as you know, the defense always has the advantage in the red zone. There's nothing to worry about behind them. It's the start of the game, all that. So I thought that was a little bit of an underlying element to why the Chiefs kind of started off slow in the football game.
All right, much more to talk about the upcoming Allen versus Mahomes again. Of course, 3-0 Mahomes in the postseason. It's been a different story in the regular season. But let's let this sink in here. So this is the 7th straight AFC Championship game appearance, 6th at home for Kansas City, and it is also where I want to read something else on that. Maybe that's just the most amazing thing. Oh, they're 7-0. Patrick Mahomes in divisional round games, the most wins without a loss in divisional round history in the NFL. I mean, it's just like they get to this point in the season and they have been the better team every single time. It's crazy. We all know that, but it's still crazy.
It's crazy. And they do it, as I've said before, in a way that's inexplicable. We knew the Patriots were like the super detailed team that was always going to just have the right game plan. right? It's like the Cowboys of the 90s. We knew they had some players and they had a physical way about them. It was like, there's nothing you can do. The 49ers of the 80s were all about precision, get it out. How do we stop that? It's like the Chiefs are like this malleable dynasty where they're just like, oh, 1 year, yeah, we're going to be the best offense in the world, and we'll ride that wave for a little, and then we're just going to change the best defense in the world, and it'll kind of be ugly on offense, but we'll be clutch in every big moment. We'll just do that. It's unreal. I was sitting there, and I'm not going to lie, because I had some people texting me like, oh, I hope Houston wins, and I was like, what? You don't want Houston to win. You want to see Kansas City with a chance to go for a three-peat next week to go to the Super Bowl against Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That's what you want. And I said that to a few people. They're like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm sick of the Chiefs, but you're right. I do want to watch that next week. So, yeah, this is amazing. And it's just right now they're doing it like I talked about with just clutch play, big moments, 3 phases of the game, start the game off with a kick return like we said, ugly field goal drives. Oh, you missed a field goal at our 50-yard line? Oh, thanks for jump-starting us. We'll go down and score a touchdown, right? Oh, you're getting close? You're about to tie the game? Oh, you choking son of a bitch. You missed the extra point. Now you're down by a point. And you know what? You've been controlling the game, but you know what time it is? It's moment time. And now we're going to drive down the field and score. And I'm going to throw a touchdown pass where I'm vertical to the ground and still throw it on the money to Travis Kelce. And we don't even talk about it because that's how awesome he is.
It's funny you say that. Yeah.
Right? Because you're thinking about it now and you're like, yeah, that is kind of unbelievable. But it's like so Mahomes, you kind of just go, I've seen him do that like 10 times now. No big deal. Yeah, but nobody else does it. He's incredible. And then, of course, the defensive stops in the moments and all they did there, they're special that way.
Yeah, I called my son I was like, you got to see this touchdown by Mahomes. And he was just like, yeah. They're like, that's what he does. It was like, he was like at 45 degrees. He wasn't like fully at like 3 degrees off the ground. I was like, all right.
I texted my son. I was like, because my son was at home with my dad, right? Big Phil came and picked up little Phil yesterday. And I was just like, because he wasn't sure who to root for, Stroud or Mahomes. And I was like, root for Mahomes because of the reasons I told you before in the AFC Championship game. And then I was also just like, come on, he's him. If he's not him, I don't know who him is. I've never seen anything like him. The stats and everything like that. Every big moment or big play, Patrick Mahomes has almost come through every time in his life, except for one moment in the AFC Championship game against Joe Burrow in overtime. So they got more than ice in their veins. They got ice in their veins with maybe some of your energy drinks in there too.
Oh, he's plenty. They're juiced up. And that was Lowe's home team help. Lowe's, you got a nice meaty segment there. All right, we got to take a break because I got to learn about what happened to you in Philadelphia. What did they say to you? And we can share everything. We can swear on this podcast. At least you can.
Yes.
So that's coming
share
up
it all.
next. Welcome back to Chris Simms Unbuttoned, presented by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. Welcome back to Chris Simms, public enemy number 1 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Maybe number 2. Micah Parsons is up there, too. I think that's pretty. It was neck and neck there for a while.
No doubt. I mean, I'm still up there, but so let me just. This is how. Yeah. First off, most people there were great to me. They really were. But my day started like this: walking onto the football field. They were. Of course, we're talking about hour and a half from kickoff, maybe hour and 45 minutes. Of course, there's fans on the sideline. And right off the bat, I walk out of the tunnel, and you can see the sidelines is already pretty packed, and there's a ton of Eagle fans right there. And some dude with, Chris Simms, you're useless. You're useless. Why do you hate Philadelphia so much? You're useless. I said, man, I hate Philadelphia. I was like, I don't know if anybody talks about the team more glowingly than me. I said, I just picked you guys to win the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago. That's all I talk. Oh gosh, I don't listen to you. I don't follow you anyways. I said, of course you don't. You're too stupid. We don't have people like you following me. Obviously. And all his friends, laughed and walked away.
They love that.
Then I had a ton of people yelling at me at the sideline, hey, you suck. You suck. You're not your dad. Your dad was awesome. You suck. Which I wanted to be like, damn, okay, you're saying my dad's awesome. I never heard you say that when he was playing. That was cool. I had other ones, say a bunch of other crap, of course. But I also will tell you that I had a number of people come up to me and say nice things. And, hey, I know these fans are rough on you, but we hear all the good things you say about the Eagles. And how many fans, security guards, people around that came up to me and said, I think all those things you said about Jalen Hurts over the years, I think you're right. I think it's you're kind of getting proven right. You just keep doing what you're doing. In fact, I had one guy like this. You just keep doing what you're doing, and you tell us, and we'll listen. And I kind of got a chuckle out of that. And I was like, I like Jalen Hurts. I just didn't want to hear he was the best quarterback in football. That's all I was trying to stop, as you know, and it all goes crazy from there. But it was a good day. I didn't give anybody the middle finger. I did tell that first guy, you're lucky we're here because I would love to see you out in the parking lot. And I might have said something else after that, too. But other than that, I was pretty good.
I think they would have expected you to throw the middle finger out. But no one threw anything at you, though. No one threw, like, a water bottle.
No, Jason
or
Garrett
beer.
got hit by a snowball square in the back.
No
that
way,
was the
really?
only person I saw. Yeah, he got hit. He got hit square. It was good.
Yeah, they got a lot of public enemies on the NBC payroll right now. All right, so all right, that's good. He survived.
Devin McCourty was getting it, too. Let's not forget, since he lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles. That's all anybody can say to him, the whole weekend. So he had to hear that crap, too.
Well, and at the end of the day, they were all happy because they won the game. And let's start this segment with Hyundai, our friends over there. It's time for Give Me the Headlines, presented by Hyundai. So we go into the printing press. We put you to work here. You're driving to and from Philadelphia. You're in a car. You're following a game. You're working until midnight here. Now you got to come up with a headline on the game. 28-22, the final score. Got good at the end there. Your headline for this one is...
Run, Eagles, run on the way to victory. Give the ball to Saquon if you want a victory. Yeah, that's it. Run, Eagles, run.
That's a dig at Jalen Hurts again. But, that's all they needed to do.
It is not, jerk.
Because Jalen Hurts was part of the running as well. Starting it off with that, 44-yard touchdown run. Saquon Barkley goes over 200 again against the Rams. There's some stat like this. No one's ever done this. 200 in a playoff game, regular season game. I don't know what it is, but Saquon's doing stuff that we haven't seen in the past. But it's close.
It's 50 carries for 451 yards in 2 games. That's insane.
Okay.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, Eric Dickerson's like, I could have done that. He's like, that's not that big a deal, actually. But it was close, though. And Jalen Hurts got hurt, obviously. He got bent down like a pretzel. Hopefully he can come back and play well in the next game. But yeah, I mean, what did you make? Because the Rams, basically, when Puka Nacua caught that one inside the 20, I was like, they're gonna go ahead in this one.
I think all you do is say, thank God for the Eagles defense. Thank God for Saquon Barkley. If you're an Eagles fan, that's why they won the game. I mean, the Rams are going to be sick tomorrow. They're going to be sick. They're going to wake up and watch the film and have to go puke in a bucket and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe we blew the game the way we did. They had so many chances and opportunities. I think let's just say there was 131 plays in the football game. It felt like the Rams won 115 of them. But when the Eagles won, they were huge plays. It was like, oh, the Eagles won this play. Oh, it's 70 yards to the house at the touchdown. And he didn't get touched. Oh, they lost the next 25 plays in a row. Oh, it's 50 yards to the house, not touched. Oh, we can't do anything. Oh, it's Jalen Hurts to the house, not touched. Right? To me, I mean, you take away the 3 running plays. Okay, that's all they did on offense all day. And thank God for the defense with back-to-back turnovers there. What was that, late third quarter when they made that happen? And Jalen Carter smacks the ball out of Kyron Williams' hands, which he's got a fumbling problem he's going to have to work on this offseason. And then Nolan Smith, the other Georgia guy, he comes around the edge and strips Matthew Stafford. Georgia on Georgia crime there and knocks the ball out of his hands and gives them 6 extra points, which we know they needed. They needed desperately. So that was huge. That to me was really the 5 or 6 moments in the football game that helped the Eagles win it.
You could make a case for Jalen Carter being the best defensive player in the NFL. True or false?
True. You know that I thought about making him the NFL defensive MVP. That's how good I think Jalen. He is on my list for one of those candidates. All you got to do is watch a film of when a team plays Jalen Carter, and the first thing you'll notice is, they're worried about Jalen Carter more than anybody on the defense. He's always doubled. They always try to slide on him. He's the guy. And, of course, my man had some big-time moments today and some big moments during the football game.
So yeah, I mean, you basically hit all the big moments here. I mean, why do you say?
Yeah.
So when you're Sean McVay and you're looking back at this, like what are those missed opportunities? Obviously the turnovers, right? But do you think there were other things they could have done? They ran the ball pretty well against them. They had some openings in the passing game. Puka Nacua nearly 100 yards there. I mean, do you think this is a situation where obviously outside the ones that they gave up on defense, but offensively they could have done more too?
I didn't feel like that. I felt like they really played the game about as good and as perfect as they could have. They put themselves in a chance to win the football game, like you talked about. I mean, the defense probably played its best game of the year. They were phenomenal. I know they ran for 200 yards, but it doesn't feel like that, right? It felt like, of course, like I said earlier, the Rams won on more run plays than they didn't. It's just that when they lost big, and then didn't even get a hand on Saquon. That was the big thing. But I thought the approach was the right way on the offensive side of the ball, right? They trusted their defensive game plan. They're in the secondary. They played well. I do think the snow helped the Rams more than it does the Eagles. I know everybody out there goes, bad weather. That's an advantage for the big team. It's not necessarily always that. Philadelphia is the big team and the faster team. It hurt them. It hurt their ability to put the cleats in the ground and push and move people around. It hurt their ability to take off and make moves and be able to do stuff like that. So that's where I feel like sometimes that gets overlooked. But the Rams did everything. And, of course, had those opportunities. Shula, the defensive coordinator, Chris Shula, what a phenomenal game plan he had. And the other thing, a part of this is, and why the game was there to be had, it is really going to be the biggest story as we go on this week, is you shouldn't be able to put 8 or 9 guys at the box and still stop the passing game the way the Los Angeles Rams did. The Philadelphia Eagles, who I picked to go to the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago, they are not going to win the Super Bowl if their offensive pass game looks the way it did last week or this week. They're not going to be able to beat the Commanders or whoever, say, team in the AFC in the Super Bowl with what they're doing and having just to rely on Saquon run the ball. It's a huge issue for them right now.
You took the words out of Narky 44's fingers, I guess, because he typed this to you. Is it too much to say the Eagles won't win the Super Bowl with Jalen's play? I know Saquon is awesome, but man, their passing game has been poor. And I do think, like, with the way the field was, that really did neutralize Jalen Hurts in the pocket, because that safety he got, and I know that was right after he got banged up and twisted the knee, but boy, he did not look very mobile or elusive getting away from those defensive linemen.
No, definitely. He didn't have that side-to-side movement to change direction or maybe set a guy up and then make him miss and then go run and do some of that. Yeah, but it hasn't been good. Now, hey, we know in some of these areas, Jalen Hurts has never been outstanding, right? He does a lot of good things, but in the pocket, precision passing is not the thing I would put at the top of the list and go, that's where Jalen Hurts is the best, right? Those are things we talk about him needing to improve. But ever since, the layoff with the concussion and those issues right there, the pass offense has not clicked at all. It's inexcusable. And again, I'm not one that's you got to get the ball to A.J. Brown. But to go through a game the last 2 weeks and as little as he's touched the ball and the way that we can't even finagle a pass or a screen or a reverse or some of that to him, I think they do got to find ways to make that happen as well. But hopefully this week, through a good week of practice, and then the fact that Hurts has gotten a few weeks of practice under his belt here, he can kind of shake off the cobwebs and some of the negative play he's had. Because, today, missed throws, turning down open receivers a few times, definitely watching the pocket a little bit. And I just felt like played a little too safe overall in a game like this. And, they were fortunate to win the game today. They really were. And they were nervous as hell on the sideline at the end of that football game when Los Angeles and Stafford were driving down the field.
I want to give a couple shout outs to the homies who are tweeting at us here. PJ Arsvold said damn okay to that Rams defensive line. Obviously gave up some big run plays, but also pushed the Eagles O-line around like no one had this year. And Jared Verse backed up that talk. Yeah, he was bouncing some of those Eagles offensive linemen around like pinballs a couple of times. Like the Rams are, like, remind me of the Chiefs a little bit, right? It's like you've got some of your offensive weapons. We feel pretty good about Stafford and Kupp and Nakua and Williams. It's like, now let's build our defense. We don't have that much draft capital. Let's build it with some young guys that we think are pretty good. And like now I think they have a chance to be really good, right? And still cheat on that side of the ball.
They're close. Yeah. You're right. They're really close. They don't need a ton. They need maybe another blue chip secondary player, right? Maybe another big body in the middle of the defense to be a run stopper. They need that. They need another receiver. As big a fan as I am of Cooper Kupp, his days of being the bona fide like star, right, or even like a top-notch number two, I worry that they're numbered. He does have a hard time separating from people. There's a reason he's kind of, just disappears at certain times of games and at certain parts of the season this year, right? So I think those are some of the things they're going to have to address. But, yeah, in the NFC West, I wouldn't want it to deal with the Rams. And I know Stafford after the game said he was going to think about things and take some time with his family, which I was surprised to hear about. But if he comes back, yeah, I look at the Rams and go, man, Stafford, do come back, because you got a chance to be in a Super Bowl window here again at the end of your career, and I think be a part of a special team.
Yeah, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Did have the fumble, but in those conditions against a pretty good defense. Quinyon Mitchell left the game in the first quarter with a shoulder injury. Your man crush said in the locker room, though, he will be good for the NFC Championship.
Okay, so that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I got a little worried. He was like kind of holding the collarbone, and I was like, shit. Was he messed up there? I hope he didn't like break it or get a hairline fracture. They'll need him, as we know. With all that you have to defend with Jaden Daniels, you need your corners to be at full strength so you can play some man-to-man and do some stuff every now and then. He's really damn good. That was another disappointing thing I'll say about the Eagles today. As good as the Rams were, let's not forget, Isaiah Rodgers dropped 2 interceptions. Darius Slay dropped an interception. The Eagles on the defensive side of the ball had some chances to make a few more plays. And, I mean, damn, one of them ended up being a catch for the Rams when he stole it right out of Isaiah Rodgers' hands. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting next week. I'm going to be interested. I know the Eagles' defense is for real. Will the Eagles' offense be able to shake off these cobwebs and get going? They got familiarity with the Washington Commanders in their defense, but, of course, they got familiarity with them as well, and that's going to be the interesting part of the matchup.
And that was Give Me the Headlines presented by Hyundai. Good segue. We got to take one more break, but when we come back, a rematch. 2 teams that know each other very, very well. The Commanders, the Eagles. We have to talk about my Lions, and we'll do that next. Welcome back to Chris Simms Unbuttoned, presented by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. One more game to talk about. We've saved it. We've buried it at the end of the pod. So this is the part where we've already been going along. Matt Casey has texted me, said we can spend 2.5 to 3 minutes on this game. That's all we have time for. My Detroit Lions in the dream season. I said to you, my favorite Lions season of all time. It's even better than last year, because last year was awesome and they got to a little farther, but it was just like this year they were just so dominant, and like they were a lot of people's number one team, and they were so fun to watch, and they won blowout games like I've never seen before. So I loved this year, and I hated the ending. Commanders beat the Lions 45-31. The final. NFL fan Matt tweets at us and says, "Sorry, Ahmed. Love the homies," and I appreciate that, homies. I do. But if you're gonna lose to anyone, you lose to the Washington Commanders, because that is a fun team, and Jaden Daniels was fun to watch. And as I'm talking, I'm processing the loss here still. You might have to take over most of it. No, but like, let's just start. Can we start with the Washington side of it? Because it really is like an awesome story for a team that was the second worst in football last year, the number 2 pick, to turn it around this quickly. I mean, like, I know you've liked, obviously, Jaden Daniels for a long time, and I think you were one of the first people that were banging that drum that he was clearly a top 2 quarterback in the draft. Like, even for you, what he has done on the field, what he did in this game, was it surprising or no?
No. It surprises me that it's just week after week after week, right? I'm not surprised, but I am, right? Because, I mean, we've seen it. So this is consistent with what we've seen. But I guess it's just another like, wait. Oh, playoff pressure. Okay, he's good. Okay, playoff pressure in a hostile environment versus the number one seed. Oh, check, he's good. I mean, there's just nothing he doesn't check a box with. And I mean, just with the game and how they play, it was a great game to watch. The fourth down conversions, how aggressive you guys are, the way they play, because they know Washington, their defense is not that great. And Jaden Daniels in 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2 type of situations, damn, he's almost impossible to get him off the field. So, yes, I'm amazed by all of that, let alone, was amazed that their defense, of course, made some of the plays they made last night against your Lions offense where, I was just shocked to see your Lions offense make some of those mistakes.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like the way that the Lions have won a lot of these games. Like you give up a bunch of yards, but Kirby Joseph will get a pick at a key time, or you get a fumble or something like that. And it was just like the script was flipped, and it was Washington doing. I mean, we've seen the Lions do it before, where they lost a turnover battle. What was it, 5 interceptions against Houston, and still came back and won that game. And here's one. I mean, it's like almost unheard of. It's like you lose the turnover battle 5-0, and still the last quarter of the game, you're like,
sure,
all right, they can still get back into this game. I mean, that's just how dominant their offense was, and how banged up and hurt and bad their defense was at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, their offense has to carry the squad, right? That's the big thing. We knew that your defense had issues. I wasn't like surprised that Washington was moving the ball. Did I think they would move the ball to that extent? Maybe no, I didn't think that. Right. But at the same time, we knew with Washington what they're doing. We call that ball control pass offense. The fact that he can run, the fact that Cliff Kingsbury's patient with the run, they pose problems for you. They do. And they know how to package it the right way to stress you out. And like turnovers or not, I think they were going to move the ball on you guys the way it looked no matter what last night. Yeah. Certainly. But the big thing is yes, with your defense and the state and how you explained it with all the injuries, your offense needs to carry the squad. Your offense needs to dominate the game. Your team was one of those teams that was very good at, hey, we jump out at you early, right? And now you have to play a game that's a little different, and we can still play aggressive on offense and do all this crazy stuff because we're that good. And this is perfect. This is what we want. And they were like this. I mean, this close. It's 7-3. They're driving down the field, and I'm sitting there with my wife. I'm going, here they go. They're unbelievable. You just can't stop their offense. And the strip sack fumble happened. And that was different ball game from that moment on, where I felt like, oh, man, the Lions are going to get them down 14-3, and they're going to get Jaden Daniels throwing the ball on every play, and they're going to play all these crazy Aaron Glenn blitzes and coverages, and it's going to be just how the Lions wanted the game to start out, right? But unfortunately, that mistake was just the start of many mistakes throughout the night. And Jared Goff arguably played, one of the worst games he's played as a Lion ever since you guys got going, in the right direction of winning football games.
Uncharacteristic for him. I think we have the Jaden Daniels passing chart here, and we have a question also from Swish B after Washington puts up 481 total yards. He goes, damn okay, Cliff. He had every answer for that Aaron Glenn-led defense. Obviously, JD5 played incredibly, but Cliff called a really nice game. Do you give him a lot of the credit for what they did? Did they find weaknesses? Or, I mean, I know Detroit blitzed a lot, but Jaden Daniels and Cliff were able to handle it quite well.
I give Cliff and Dan Quinn so much credit. And keep this graphic up here because I do want to talk about this, Pete, a little bit. But, yeah, I give them so much credit for reinventing themselves, right, changing some of their normal ways they approach the football game. I've been one that, I've been critical of Dan Quinn. I've been critical of Cliff Kingsbury. I like some things they do, but there's always been something where I've been, I don't love that aspect. But Kingsbury, patience with the run, the way he packages the run and the pass together, occasionally quarterback design run or moving Jaden Daniels. But look here, and this is where Jaden Daniels is so good. First off, all these short passes, one of them was a screen to Terry McLaurin that went for a 55-yard touchdown, right? So they do that. They control the clock like we talked about. They keep the clock running because this guy's so accurate. But to me, the two green dots down the field, that's when they change. And that's something you don't always see from them. You've heard me say, like, hey, big plays are really kind of the thing that holds them back at times. We've seen them go 15 plays, 60 yards, 17 plays, 80 yards. But I don't think you can do that and win the Super Bowl. There's going to have to be a few plays sprinkled in there where it's like, oh, no, there's Terry McLaurin deep down the field for a 50-yard gain. Oh, there's De'Ami Brown. Boom. Right? It can't always be these long, sustained drives. And they sprinkled that in with the game plan last night. They'll be tough to beat if they play that type of style because teams will be a little more scared Philadelphia this week where they'll go, wait, we feel like we can play man-to-man, but they're starting to throw the ball down the field to be a little scary that way. That might make them rethink of how they want to play things on that side of the ball.
Yeah. Ross Mac 74 wants to know, hey, Chris, question from Scotland here. Love the pod. Is Jaden now the best quarterback in the NFC? I can't think of anyone I'd rather have in the conference. Well, now that gets me thinking here.
I mean, he's up there. You know, you look at it right now with Stafford, you know, getting later in his career. Jordan Love didn't have a great year. Baker Mayfield's damn good. Damn, I don't know. I'd probably give it to Jaden Daniels. I think our man from Scotland's right. I can't even fucking believe I'm saying that, just so you know. Sorry, Scotland, all right? But, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that, honestly. But you sit here and look at the list right now, I actually got no problem saying that. Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC this weekend. Jalen Hurts is going to hear that, though, a little bit this week, and he'll be motivated by that.
Yeah, and you'll have to go back down and get flipped off by some of those guys, you were talking to today, your new friends. I think this is so.
Well, we got to hit on some of the Jared Goff stuff real quick.
No, we don't. There's no rule that says we have to do any of that stuff. This is our own podcast. We can do
after everything we've talked about so far, this is the next biggest thing coming up, right? The strip sack fumble. I'm not going to blame him a lot. I'm not. That's tough, right? Stuff like that happens. His aggressive nature kind of screwed him a little bit on the in-cut pick six, right? He's got pressure. I love how, hey, when he stands in the pocket, he looks down the barrel and he throws the ball all the time. But he gets pressure here. You see the dots, and somebody's kind of stepping up, hitting him on the side, and he's got to throw the ball a hair earlier than he wants to, anticipate it a little more than he wants to, let alone, as you watch this again, watch how number 1 and 20 and 23, they're all kind of expecting the in-breaking route by Tim Patrick, number 17. And number 1, I think that might be Igabanye. Is that who that is, number 1? He kind of got himself underneath that to where I think as Goff is throwing under pressure, he sees it, and he was hoping to get it over him and into Tim Patrick's hand. And, of course, it went 2 over him, and Quan Martin got the interception, pick 6. And that was the first moment of the game I went, oh, man, the Commanders can win this. They might win this football game. Because up until this point, I was kind of like, Detroit will weather the storm. They'll weather the storm. Their offense will start to take off here and wear them down. And they made that play, and then you start to go, ooh. And then what happens after that? They go down the football field, right? Or not long after that, before the half, when they're down 31-21. Down the half, he's got Jamison Williams for a post down the middle for a touchdown, let alone you're in field goal range. So if you don't feel comfortable making the throw, just, play and take the field goal. And be down by 8 going into the half, right? Or 7. But instead, he's a little late to throw it. He's a little late to see it. And he throws it 2 upfield, and there's an out of bounds. There's an end line, right? So it was a late throw and the inappropriate throw at the end of the day. And that allowed the defender to undercut that and, of course, make the big interception and the big moment, which cost you guys points there for sure.
I mean, he had a bad game. He arguably had the worst game of his Lions tenure, and it just sucks that it happened to be in this one. I was texting my wife. She was down in the basement doing something else. She didn't want to be around me watching this game, and she was like, "What's the score?" And I go, "Hey, it's 14-10. Sam Laporta, just a great one-handed catch." And I was like, "I'm feeling great." I'm like, "All right, they're rolling. Washington can't stop us." And then I checked my phone, and I was like, "Wow, how long ago did I text that?" And it was like 13 minutes later, and it was 24-14 Washington. And I'm like, well, this is all turned. But this is why, like, this Lions team was my favorite, because I think we have the dots to the Or we have one of the plays, the David Montgomery shovel pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You had that. You had the Teddy Bridgewater comes in the game, and you're still doing trick plays. It's just like my guy, Ben Johnson, it's just like he'll be my favorite offensive coordinator ever because they basically had no fear. They played like they wanted to win the game. They didn't care about messing it up and losing the game. And a lot of times they had enough talent to pull off some of this stuff.
Definitely did. It was so fun to watch. So many creative. I mean, this play right here, that's as cool as it gets. I mean, I've never seen anybody do that. Now, I couldn't enjoy the creativity of Ben Johnson and all that. I think the only time I didn't love it, or just last night, was the Jameson Williams reverse pass interception, right? And again, it's hard because when you're aggressive and you have all these cool plays and they've worked all year long, you just feel like, hey, we've done this, we practiced it, let's do it again. But of course, it's fourth quarter, right? And it's a 10-point, you're down by 10. And that had been one when he called that, where it was probably the first time all year. And again, I might look like I'm second guessing it, but I think you know me enough now to know I tend to play more in the conservative way when it comes to that type of stuff. I was surprised by that one because I'm going, wait, it's 10 points. I get it, but yet I don't get it. You still got Jared Goff. You're still throwing the ball at will. You're running the ball at will to Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know if that was the moment of the game, down 10, and maybe the clutchest spot of the year. We were going to go, let's Jameson Williams throw the football. That was maybe the first time all year I second-guessed Ben Johnson a little bit.
Yeah. I will say this, though, and, we have been philosophically, at different ends of the discussion on fourth downs.
Yeah, right.
But I will say, I do think the tide might be turning in my favor here with Dan Quinn now going for fourth down as many times as they went for it, and it was successful. I mean, we did see the Bills game today where they go for fourth down on their first possession, I believe, right, and end up scoring a touchdown. And then I believe they were going to go at the end of the first half. They ran Josh Allen on 3rd and short with no timeout. So I think they were prepared to go for fourth down there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, at the end of the first half. So now I'm not saying like I've won this debate. I'm not going to say that. I'll let other people say that. But I do feel like the tide is turning now when you see guys like Dan Quinn going for fourth down as many times. At least when you have an elite offense and maybe a not so good defense too, that you're seeing teams make the decision that we're going to try to get as many points as we can.
You already won the debate. You have won. I mean, you're not wrong. The league has already gone in your favor. Now I'm going to sit here and go, I don't agree with all of the league. That's me, right? But you've definitely won that argument, and it's certainly the en vogue thing to do. And I think, right? I mean, every situation is different. I get on it sometimes because it's like some teams are just like, go, no matter what, go, go. And I'm like, no. Like Sean McDermott tonight, he's been aggressive all year, but he was like, fourth and like a 2 yards. And this moment, right, they were up by 5 late in the football game, 24-19. Yeah. And he just went, let me go. Okay, it's there, good. I just want to see sometimes common sense, feel for the moment, feel for the game. But I think to your point, too, and you kind of said it, we're going to see the teams that go, wait, our defense isn't that great, and the offense is the part of our team that carries us. They're going to start to do this because as we see with quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen or whoever, when you give them 4 downs because of their ability to run the quarterback design run and that type of stuff, it's very hard to stop them. And so you've won the debate. Kudos to you. All right.
Wow.
But I just would like to say I don't think everybody has to go for it all the time. I think that's my point, right? Right.
Yeah. No, hey, that's, and I don't know if you would have said that if the Lions would have won. Maybe you're just feeling sorry for me now. But I can always, and Dan Campbell said this too. He's like, there are times when he's coaching in a game that he wants the other team not to go for fourth down. Like if you're having trouble stopping them, right? It's like in Washington and all those fourth downs, I would have much rather they kicked field goals on every single one of them. So that just kind of like shows you, if the other team's wanting you to kick it, maybe you shouldn't kick it. But
now listen, I think a team like the Eagles this week will have a different thought, though. They'll be like, oh, yeah, go for it on fourth down. We're fine with that. We got enough guys in the middle. We got speed on the edge. If you remember in their first matchup where Philly won in Philly, they stopped them on a few fourth down runs. right? But I hear your point. I think every team's different. Every team wants to play with a different style and approach and what they do that way. And I'm cool with that. I just get on teams when they go a little too overboard with the going for it all the time. But I understand it. And with the Lions and Washington and the current state of their teams, I totally understood them being so aggressive on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and you know who was really aggressive against Washington was Terrion Arnold. Not necessarily in the game, although he had a couple good plays, I think, near the end of that game. It was when he was playing them in Madden. I guess this must have been today, where Terrion took his frustrations out on him. I think we have video of it here. Okay, so there he is. If you know, you know. And then it switches around. He's playing on a PC, looks like. And he is up 103-0. How much time's left there? What was that? Was that fourth quarter or was like first quarter?
I mean, is he playing against a user? He must just be playing against a user and put the controller down. I don't know. That's not even possible to do that to the computer. I played enough Madden in my life. It's impossible to score 103 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, that takes a lot of patience, though. I mean, like, that takes a while. Yeah, like, you got to, like, score, and then you got to, like, have them fumble, pick up the other controller, and do something weird with them.
Hey, you know this young generation, they'll do anything for likes on Instagram, all right? So that's not a problem.
that is true. That is true. Is there
I feel
more
bad
you
for
want to
them.
say?
I feel bad for you.
Yes.
We were thinking of you in the Simms household last night, no doubt.
Thank you.
We were. The game was getting late, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, man, poor Ahmed. He's going to be upset. So I knew your family would be. Yeah. I'm sorry about that, man.
Last year, it took me honestly a good 2 weeks to get over it. Like, I feel like I'm okay. Like, I'm now getting used to this losing in the playoff thing, and so now we can do this every year, and I can adjust.
How much good can you have in 1 year? Your team's awesome. Michigan won the national championship last year. You're doing all right in the sports world. I'm not going to shed a tear for you too much right now. Try being a Giants fan, all right? Yeah, you know how that feels.
Yeah. Last one, real quick, before I let you get 1.5 hours of sleep before you got to talk to Mike tomorrow. When did you talk to Mike? And I know he did the report on Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn. I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think? What's your gut say? Do you think they lose both of them? Neither of them? One of them?
I think they lose both of them. If you made me guess, I think Aaron Glenn will go to the New York Jets. I think Ben Johnson will eventually go to the Chicago Bears, right? I think from what I've heard, there might be some things that need to be worked out behind the scenes or whatever else. And there's some things there that maybe both sides want to get a little more comfortable with. But I think I'd look at the Bears as being the spot for Ben Johnson when all said and done. And to me, I don't know what he wouldn't like about the Bears, right? Like you've heard me say, their offense is pretty set up. Their defense ain't bad either. I think now it just comes down to, is he comfortable with the GM? Is he comfortable with ownership and feel like that's a formula for success for him going into the future? We'll see. But yeah, I'm sorry. I do think you're going to lose both of them.
Okay. All right. Well, hey.
All right.
Dan Campbell will take it. Dan Campbell will just coach offense, defense, and head coach. He can do it. He's like the
they'll
new
find
Chuck
the
Norris.
right people. They're made of the right stuff right there. I guarantee this is the good thing. When you know you have an offensive coordinator that's been in demand, smart teams usually know that and know that, hey, we got to get so-and-so ready because he might have to take over. So pay attention to Ben's offense. What's he doing here? What's he doing there? You know, and it becomes I bet you Dan Campbell sat in some meetings too and been like, oh, well, let me see. Ben's teaching that. Okay, let me remember that for next year. That's what he should do. They'll be fine. That culture is perfect and what it is there. And that's all because of Dan Campbell.
All right. Well,
all right. You good?
We
done?
made it through.
You all right? All right.
I'm
everybody.
good. I'm good. Go cry
you know where to find
drink.
us. We'll be back on Wednesday. Pick Six Podcast. Oh, man. Look at that mug. What are you? Are you from holy crap, that was a big mug. That's water? Is that water in there?
That is water.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. All right, good for you. But you know where to find us, everybody. Pick Six Podcast Wednesday. We'll be breaking down the NFC, AFC championship game. I'm pumped for that. Hope everybody enjoys the national championship game Monday night. That should be fun. Check that out. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I know as a football fan, I'm pumped about that. Hope everybody enjoyed my favorite weekend of the year, divisional football. You know where to find us.
Not everyone. Subscribe. Not everyone enjoyed it. Not everyone enjoyed it.
Screw Ahmed Fareed. All right, don't worry about him. Subscribe, rate, review. Keep sending the questions. Appreciate you, homies. Be good. Talk to you Wednesday. Peace out. Clap it up.
Clap it up.
Thanks for watching Chris Simms Unbuttoned. It's playoff time, baby.
So make sure to smash that subscribe button, as they say. We got game recaps coming up. We got all of our Super Bowl 59 coverage from Radio Row. You will be in New Orleans yourself.
And you're going to be there at some point, too, whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Thanks again for watching. Remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies.